Hi, everybody. Today I'm going to talk about how to get a Bitcoin loan or how to borrow against your Bitcoin using your Bitcoin as collateral. This is something that I've done personally with my own Bitcoin. It does come with a lot of risks. And so I'm going to walk through how to do it and how to minimize those risks that you're taking on. And before we begin, I want to give a shout out to Ledn. In fact, the article that video that we're going to cover here goes over how to borrow with Ledn. Ledn is one of the easiest places to go do this. They're one of the official sponsors of my YouTube channel, so go check them out. I'm also going to give you all the details on how to do that right now. So let's go ahead and dive on in then. So when we look at how to borrow using your Bitcoin as collateral, a little bit of background here is that I've been hodling since 2012. So I'm not a perfect hodler. I'm not going to say I hodled perfectly the whole time. In the beginning, I day traded very, very poorly. Back in that day, we thought that, man, it'd be incredible if Bitcoin just survived. Well, it didn't just do that. It thrived and is actually challenging gold, the gold status and trying to be a world reserve currency. It's actually happening, which is pretty wild. So, with that being said, that's actually happening. Well, the question is now I've got all this wealth, and if Bitcoin does become the new money of the world, well, what if I don't ever want to sell? What do I do with it? You certainly don't have a time preference of 0. You do die someday. You're not going to live forever. So if you've got this money, well, what do you want to do with it? And as a hodler, we've been conditioned to hodl no matter what through FUD market conditions. And so it's really hard for us to think about the idea of selling. So 3 years ago, I began my journey on how to never sell my Bitcoin. Note that there are no risk-free ways to do this, including hodling. But I'll try to best to lay out my risk reward sort of strategy with lending and borrowing. This video is just going to be about borrowing against your Bitcoin using it as collateral. I'll include a link in the description for a newsletter where I go through how to earn a yield on your Bitcoin. This is also something I post on Twitter once a month, which goes through how to earn a yield on your Bitcoin and goes through all the different ways you can do that. But today we're just talking about how you can borrow against your Bitcoin, so using your Bitcoin as collateral. So why would you want to do this? If you don't want to sell, you can tap into the appreciated price of your Bitcoin by taking out a loan against it. Essentially, you post Bitcoin as collateral, and then the lender gives you another asset, like dollars. The lender will charge you interest. Payment though, is interest only, which is really cool, and hold your Bitcoin as collateral for the duration of the loan, which can be paid back anytime. It requires no credit checks, and the funding can happen super quickly, which is awesome. So it's a really great, fast way to tap into your Bitcoin. But this does come with risks, and I want to make sure that we call this out explicitly and go through these in detail. So before we get there, though, I want to show you how to do it. So it's pretty easy. It only takes a few minutes. There are a bunch of different services out there. I personally prefer Ledn. It's one of the few Bitcoin only places out there which reduces risk. So they didn't have exposure to Terra, Luna, or any of that stuff. They don't have exposure to any other protocol. It's just USDC and Bitcoin, which is really, really stable, really, really safe. And so they also do something called proof of reserves, where they have someone come in, and it's not a formal audit, it's a proof of attestation. Basically, it's kind of like the same thing. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, so talk to one about this, but proof of attestation goes through and says, yes, Ledn has all of these assets here. What's cool too is when you borrow against your Bitcoin at Ledn, they deposit those Bitcoin with BitGo. So you don't even really have to trust Ledn. Well, you have to trust Ledn to some degree, but those coins are long-term stored with BitGo. They don't lend those coins back out. So first you got to create an account, and that account link is below in the description, so check it out. Then you'll fill out an application, pretty easy. Government ID, proof of address, proof of you holding your government ID, and bank account for funding, or an address for USDC funding, and then you deposit your Bitcoin. So here's what the loan calculator looks like. And I'm going to go ahead and open up the other tab here. So let's say you wanted to borrow $1,000 of Bitcoin, $1,000. Here is this little calculator, and this is available on their website, so you can go check this out yourself. It'll tell you the different terms of the loan, and then you type in how much you need. So you got 1,000. Let's say you want 10,000. You need to deposit 0.68 Bitcoin. How about 100,000? You need to deposit 6.7 or 6.8 Bitcoin, and $1 million. You need to deposit 68 Bitcoin. So it depends on how many Bitcoin that you have and how much you need to borrow. But this handy calculator will show you basically upfront what it's going to be in terms of how it works, what you're going to pay, and how much you can get. Some other information you should know: these loans are funded within 24 hours of approval. You can pay off your loans at any time without penalties. No monthly payments are required. Interest is paid at the end of the term. That's really cool. All interest expenses for the loan could be tax deductible. That depends on what jurisdiction you're in. You should talk to a tax advisor, but sometimes essentially that is deductible against your income. So it makes it almost an interest-free loan, which is cool. And the Bitcoin collateral is not lent out. It is stored at BitGo, which makes it a much safer sort of setup than a lot of other companies that do this. By the way, you can also get a Bitcoin mortgage. So check out their mortgage page. It's one of the first Bitcoin mortgages out there. So if you've had trouble getting qualified for a mortgage because your income is too low, but you've got a lot of Bitcoin, well, this is a good way to do it. So I think it's more of kind of an early program. So you can get on the list here and check it out. But that's a really cool thing that Ledn does too. They don't have this available in Texas yet where I live. Otherwise, I would definitely consider it. But yeah, check that out if you're looking for a mortgage. You've got a lot of coin, and you don't have you don't have income that would help you qualify. So this basically gets you up there. So, what are the risks? We talked about all the cool, fun stuff, how to do it, and why it's great. Well, it's about maintaining a healthy LTV, loan to value ratio. So, for example, if you borrowed $50,000 using $100,000 worth of Bitcoin as collateral, if Bitcoin's price starts to fall, if it falls to a certain level that they predefine, you'll get something called a margin call, which means you either have to post more collateral to get that LTV, the loan to value ratio, better, or you have to pay off the loan, which again will make the loan to value rate better. This is a very important consideration that you need to think through when borrowing against your Bitcoin. The co-founder of Ledn had a great blog post, and I'll include this in the description as well, of how to manage your loan, how to loan management tips on, okay, you're getting margin called. How do you go top up your wallet? How do you go fix that situation? So this is by far the number one issue when borrowing against your Bitcoin. When Bitcoin can drop, 20% in a day, this could put you in a really bad spot. Make sure you have it very over collateralized. So don't play with fire. Don't, just margin, have it minimally collateralized. Make sure it's like really, really overly collateralized that you could survive a big dip. And just be aware that if it dips really, really hard, you could lose your Bitcoin because they'll have to sell your Bitcoin to pay off the loan. They're holding your Bitcoin as collateral because they don't trust you. So and this is with all lenders, by the way, this isn't Ledn or any one company. This is just how over collateralized lending works. It's over collateralized. You're borrowing less dollars than your collateral is worth. So they're holding that because they're like, well, we don't do a credit check, so we've got this collateral that we can sell if the value drops too much. So if it drops way too much, they're going to have to liquidate your collateral. Also servicing the debt. This isn't cheap debt. It's between 8 to 10% interest, and it's due at the end of the loan term. You could sell off some of your Bitcoin to pay for that interest, but just know that you're having to pay interest on that US dollar amount, and just make sure you have enough money to pay that. Custody, well, with Ledn, we know that they've got BitGo, but if BitGo got hacked, and BitGo is a qualified custodian, but if BitGo got hacked, that would be a very bad situation where you could lose all your Bitcoin. And then tax. This is a big one too. What I talked about earlier with a margin call. If Bitcoin's value keeps dropping and it drops below that certain predefined level, and you can't post more collateral or pay off the loan, and they sell your Bitcoin to pay off the loan, well, if you've taken that loan money, those dollars, and bought a house with it, the IRS is going to go, hey, by the way, you sold your Bitcoin in this transaction. When you got margin called, you sold your Bitcoin. So whatever tax rate you're in, you owe us long-term or short-term capital gains. Now, if you've put that money into something else and the value of that's dropped, well, you might have to sell all of that just to pay your taxes. So this is a really important consideration. Totally depends on what jurisdiction you're in. The lucky guys over in Germany, if for them long-term cap gains is 0%, so not a big deal for them. But in other countries like the United States, we have long-term and short-term capital gains rates. So make sure that you pay attention to that. That's really, really critical, and just be aware of when does this go bad for you, and understand that, because not everything goes well. I always like to think of investments of how bad can this get, and then you think about the optimistic upside. So in conclusion, borrowing against your Bitcoin using it as collateral is a tool in the tool chest of various financial transactions that you can do with your Bitcoin. I've personally used Ledn to earn a yield on my Bitcoin for a couple of years now, and have borrowed against my Bitcoin from 2019 through 2021 without getting margin called. So, if this is something that's interesting to you, check out the link below. You get a $25 bonus for signing up. Just play around with it. Whatever you do, be comfortable with it and think through it very, very concretely, and talk to a financial advisor, talk to your family about it. Make sure you take very measured steps before you do a transaction like this. But if you feel that you've considered all the risks, it's a very interesting way to utilize your Bitcoin without selling it. Hope you enjoyed. If you'd like this, throw me a like, follow me, subscribe. This helps the algorithm, helps get this out to more people. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers. Bye.